So, good evening and a warm welcome to everyone present here. VISTA 2022 presented by ITW Universe, co-presented by Bank of Baroda, powered by Avendus, welcomes you all to the Elite Speaker Series. Today, we are thrilled to invite Mr. Ashok Kumar Gupta, Chairperson of the Competition Commission of India, CCI. He is a 1981 batch IAS officer of the Tamil Nadu cadre. He has an illustrious career of 40 years in public service, spanning sectors from industry, finance, and health to defense production. Prior to joining the commission, he held several key positions in the central government, such as Secretary to the Government of India in the Department of Defense Production, where he was responsible for liberalizing the licensing regime and the FDI policy. Previously, he held several positions in the Ministry of Health, Heavy Industries, Shipping, MSME, Commerce and Industry. While posted as Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Health, he was dealing with matters relating to international cooperation, World Bank and WHO projects. Mr. Ashok Sir will share his views on the topic, competition policy and the changing business environment. Welcome, sir. We would also like to welcome Professor Gaurav Jhaku from IIM Bangalore to moderate the speaker session with Mr. Ashok Kumar Gupta. Professor Jhaku is a faculty member in the Economics and Social Sciences area at IIM Bangalore. He has a PhD in Economics from Indian Statistical Institution, Masters in Economics from Delhi School of Economics, and a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from Shri Ram College of Commerce. Before his doctoral studies, he worked as an economist at the Competition Commission of India, New Delhi. His research areas are industrial organization, antitrust economics, and information economics. His current research focuses on antitrust and regulatory issues in digital markets. He uses game theoretical modeling as an analytical tool to understand the economic behavior of online firms. Welcome, sir. The format of the session is as follows. Mr. Ashok Kumar Gupta will address the audience for the first 30 minutes, followed by a 15 to 20-minute Q&A with Professor. In the end, the session would be open to audience interaction. Sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this session today. It's a pleasure to be here amongst the best of the brains in one of the top ranking and leading management institutes. And I'm happy to talk about how competition policy can be fine-tuned with the changing business environment. At the outset, I find the vision of IIM Bangalore to be very striking. It reads, our vision is to be a global, renowned academic institution fostering excellence in management, innovation, and entrepreneurship for business, government, and society. The vision focuses on three important aspects. The first relating to business, the second to government, and the third to society. I think this is very apt as the government and its institutions work for both businesses and society by promoting ease of doing business and increasing people's living standards. Bengaluru's vibrant startup culture has maintained its strong and robust growth momentum. It's no surprise that the city is home to one of the largest startup ecosystems in the world. The growth in scale of Bengaluru's enterprises, both domestically and globally, as well as the ambition and drive of the city's entrepreneurs, continues to be a source of inspiration for the entire country. I know I'm talking to future CEOs, CFOs, and industry experts who will be playing a critical role in ensuring compliance to various laws and regulations in the working of enterprises. Therefore, awareness of the various laws of the land becomes all the more important, particularly competition law, since it directly relates to the functioning of enterprises. CCI undertakes numerous initiatives ingrained in to ingrain the importance of fair competition to pave the way for establishing a competition-compliant culture in the country. Most of you would not have been born when Government of India liberalized the economy in the early 1990s envisaging competition as a key instrument of growth. In a liberalized and globalized economic setting, markets were meant to serve as an essential economic institution that would let competitive forces drive private initiatives towards public ends. However, heedful of the structural infirmities that markets may suffer from and the strategic behavior of businesses that may not let free and fair competition take hold, a robust regulatory architecture had to be put in place to complement the liberalization process. The MRTP Act, which was in place previously and focused on curbing monopolies, was found to be inadequate to cater to the regulatory demands of the changed economic milieu. The limitations of MRTP were that it was premised on size, frowned upon dominance, and had no powers for imposing penalties for anti-competitive behavior such as cartels. Even the seize and desist orders issued under MRTP Act were enforceable only through courts. It did not provide for the regulation of mergers and acquisitions and lacked extraterritorial application, which is critical for checking cross-border anti-competitive practices having an effect in India. It also did not initially apply to the public sector and government undertakings, thereby restricting the scope of the purview. With the changing and evolving nature of businesses, markets, and economy, there was a necessity to replace the erstwhile law with a new competition law. Thus, a high-level committee under the chairmanship of Mr. S.V.S. Raghavan on competition policy and law was constituted to make appropriate recommendations for improvement in Indian competition policy to make markets function better and provide the necessary entrepreneurial freedom to fuel economic growth. This led to enactment of the Competition Act 2002. The overarching aim of the Competition Act is to prevent practices having adverse effect on competition, promote and sustain competition in markets, protect the interests of consumers, and ensure freedom of trade carried on by other participants in markets so that markets work better and businesses compete on merit while consumers benefit from competition. In sync with the philosophy of modern competition laws, the new law prohibits anti-competitive agreements and abuse of dominant position by enterprises, besides regulating mergers and acquisitions that may cause an adverse effect on competition in markets. Through each of these levers, CCI strives to identify, deter, and remedy market distorting, competition inhibiting business practices. Let me now touch each of the pillars of the legislation. Section 3 of the Act prohibits anti-competitive agreements which are executed between market players with an underlying object of distorting competition. Broadly, agreements are categorized as either horizontal or vertical. While horizontal agreements are between producers or suppliers of the same goods or services, vertical agreements are entered into between two or more enterprises operating at different market levels, for example, manufacturer and retailer. An agreement means a meeting of minds or understanding between two or more parties and extends to any arrangement, verbal or written, which may or may not be legally enforceable. For the purposes of the Act, an agreement can be deduced by a mere wink or nod. Additionally, participation in meetings where commercially sensitive information is discussed may suffice, irrespective of whether or not the decision is implemented, as such exchange takes away the independent decision-making ability of competitors. For example, in many of the cartel cases decided by CCI, officials of contravening parties attended meetings wherein they discussed business strategies and the future course of action with respect to commercially sensitive information such as prices, market allocations, production, dispatches, etc. CCI held that the act of attending these meetings and discussing such commercially sensitive information established an agreement among the parties. The Competition Act envisages civil liability, and the standard of proof required to establish contravention is preponderance of probabilities and not beyond reasonable doubt, as is required under criminal law. As by very nature, anti-competitive agreements such as cartels are hatched in secrecy and executed in darkness, investigators may often have to look for indirect or circumstantial evidence to connect the dots. In such situations, based on the holistic appreciation of circumstantial evidence, CCI may hold parties liable for anti-competitive conduct such as cartelization or bid rigging. To illustrate, in cement cartelization case, where CCI imposed penalties to the tune of around 6,320 crores on cement manufacturers, circumstantial evidence in the form of price parallelism with strong price correlation and underutilization of capacity, amongst others, led to the establishment of cartelization. Many a time, it is observed that trade associations facilitate collusive actions amongst competitors by providing a forum for discussions on commercial terms. While CCI recognizes the legitimate role of trade associations in working towards raising common issues concerning the members, their entering the commercial thicket is strictly prohibited and is considered a serious infringement of competition law. Another focused area of CCI's enforcement action relates to public procurement, where bid rigging is commonly resorted to. Collusive tendering in the procurement imposes heavy costs on the public exchequer by significantly increasing the cost of procurement. Most of the bid rigging cases dealt by CCI pertain to railways, healthcare, and defense, where public procurement accounts for a substantial portion of government expenditure. Apart from enforcement interventions, under its advocacy initiatives, CCI brought out a comprehensive guidance tool in the form of diagnostic toolkit for public procurement officers, which serves as a practical guide for procurement officials in the government to get rid of the menace of bid rigging. The CCI has prioritized making the public procurement process competitive. Through its lesser penalty regulations, CCI has incentivized self-reporting and offered businesses an opportunity to approach the Commission for lesser penalty by making vital disclosures on cartels. In an international cartel case pertaining to auto components, CCI fined 2 Japanese companies and their Indian subsidiaries for indulging into cartelization in the supply of electric power steering in India. It is also noteworthy that both these companies approached CCI as lesser penalty applicants and provided significant value addition to the evidence already in our possession. Thus, such self-reporting by enterprises helped unearth not only domestic cartels, but also resulted in successful busting of cross-border collusions. Talking about anti-competitive vertical agreements, they can take various forms. The Competition Act provides a non-exhaustive list of vertical agreements that have the potential to cause an appreciable adverse effect on competition. AAEC. Let me state such agreements in seriatim. First is the tie-in arrangement, where a purchaser of goods has to purchase some other goods as a condition of purchase. Next are exclusive supply agreements, where a purchaser is restricted in the course of his trade from acquiring or otherwise dealing in goods other than those of the seller. Apart from that, there are exclusive distribution agreements involving restriction on the supply of any goods or allocation of any area or market for the disposal or sale of goods. Refusal to deal is another category which restricts persons to whom goods are sold or from whom goods are bought. Last is the resale price maintenance agreement, which is any agreement to sell goods on the condition that the prices to be charged on the resale shall be the prices stipulated by the seller. It is important to mention that vertical agreements may often have intrinsic efficiencies and redeeming features, unlike cartels, which are inherently pernicious. Therefore, in assessing their impact on competition, the rule of reason applies, which means that these agreements are not presumed to have AAEC, but are assessed from a legal and economic perspective to determine whether the agreement in question poses any real threat to competitive forces. Only when the negative effects of the restraints outweigh the positive effects, the agreement may be termed anti-competitive. In a case relating to resale price maintenance, which is one of the types of vertical agreements, CCI found a leading car manufacturer to be restricting and controlling the discounts offered by its dealers to the end consumers. The manufacturer not only imposed the discount control policy on its dealers, but also monitored and enforced the same through mystery shopping agencies, posing as customers before the dealers, imposing penalties on them, and threatening strict action such as stoppage of supply and collecting and recovering penalty. The mechanism did not allow the distributors to compete effectively on price, thereby stifling intra-brand competition. Thus, a contravention was found and penalty was imposed. One of the important features of the Act is extraterritorial jurisdiction, which was absent in the MRTP Act. Under Section 32 of the Act, CCI is vested with the power to take cognizance of an act taking place outside India, but having an adverse effect on competition in India. The Act, by allowing CCI to exercise extraterritorial jurisdiction, has made it possible to take action against anti-competitive conduct involving cross-border cartels, which may adversely affect the Indian market. As I mentioned, CCI has invoked its extraterritorial jurisdiction and taken enforcement actions against international cartels. The Competition Act also recognizes the need to safeguard intellectual property rights to spur innovation by allowing IPR holders to impose reasonable conditions in agreements as may be necessary to protect such rights. The Commission in the FICCI multiplex case observed that the intellectual property laws do not have any absolute overriding effects on competition law, which means that such conditions can be imposed only on FRAND terms, that is fair, reasonable, and in non-discriminatory manner. The law also recognizes efficiency enhancing arrangements by excluding them from the statutory presumption of appreciable adverse effect on competition. We have just emerged from the stressful times of the pandemic, realizing that businesses may need to coordinate certain activities during these times by way of sharing data on stock levels, timings of operation, sharing of distribution network and infrastructure, transport, logistics, R&D, production, etc. CCI issued a business advisory. It highlighted that these efficiency enhancing arrangements to ensure continued supply and fair distribution of essential products are not falling foul of law. Coming to Section 4 of the Act, it is noteworthy to mention that only abuse of dominant position is prohibited under the scheme of the Act, and simply being dominant is not frowned upon, as this law recognizes the advantages of scale to achieve efficiencies. A firm is said to be in a dominant position if it can operate independently of market forces prevailing in the relevant market. A dominant firm has a special responsibility given its market power. It cannot impose unfair pricing or unfair terms and conditions. In a landmark case, CCI found a leading real estate player to have abused its dominant position by entering into an agreement with apartment buyers, which was one-sided, abusive, and unfair to buyers. Besides imposing penalty for indulging into abusive conduct, the entity was directed to amend its terms and conditions to make them fair and equitable. At this stage, it is important to highlight that the thrust of competition law is to examine the fairness of the terms imposed by dominant undertakings in contracts rather than focusing on the contextual disputes between the parties. By intervening, CCI seeks to ensure that the terms do not remain one-sided, onerous, or discriminatory. Contract law only regulates terms and conditions and the legally enforceable rights and responsibilities of the parties to contract. So competition law goes beyond contract law to safeguard the rights of consumers in certain situations. Essentially, there are two kinds of abuse: exploitative and exclusionary. In a case relating to the aftermarket in the automobile sector, CCI found that the OEMs were abusing their dominance through keeping the prices of spare parts exorbitantly high and not allowing independent service providers to access their spare parts, thus protecting their position in the aftermarket as well. Over the years, CCI has examined over 1,100 cases pertaining to allegations of anti-competitive agreements and abuse of dominant position in diverse sectors, including entertainment, pharma, aviation, agriculture, construction, cement, sports, real estate, etc., wherein concerns of a large number of market players and consumers, both with respect to cartelization and abuse of dominance, have been addressed. The instrument of enforcement has been applied judiciously, keeping in mind the specificities and peculiarities of the sector dealt with, the market structure and nature of contraventions. Appropriate behavioral and structural remedies have been issued by CCI to address anti-competitive concerns. Additionally, in appropriate cases, monetary penalties have been imposed to act as a deterrent. Digitization of markets with the advent of internet economy has brought about a paradigm shift, raising a slew of novel questions and concerns for competition authorities. In India, we have been witnessing the adoption of digital technologies at an astonishing pace, to which COVID-19 pandemic provided a further impetus. Not very long ago, technology markets were thought to be driven by intense, innovative rivalry, characterized by creative destruction. However, digital markets with online multi-sided platforms at their fulcrum have evidently defied this narrative. Far from being self-correcting, digital markets appear to have intrinsic features such as network effects, scale advantage derived from user data, multi-product ecosystem, and gatekeeper position that help entrench market power. While today's leading digital tech giants disrupted status quo with their entry, they went on to attain market positions that now seem unshakable. From a competitive law perspective, it is important that they remain neutral in their functioning. In recent times, there has been a steady rise in cases examined by CCI emanating from new age markets, which range from across the verticals such as online marketplace platforms, app stores, payment gateways, online travel, food aggregators, search engine, ad tech, and social networking. From a competition standpoint, these cases involve diverse issues such as search bias, self-preferencing, exclusive arrangements, predatory pricing, deep discounting, and leveraging. Given the rapid evolution of digital markets, competition agencies need to act swiftly and craft remedies suitably and dynamically to address the challenges arising out of new forms of business models. Accordingly, CCI's intervention in such markets have been very balanced and pragmatic, maintaining the incentives of innovation while seeking to correct anti-competitive behavior. Now coming to mergers and acquisitions, known as combinations in the Act, businesses grow inorganically, that is by acquiring businesses. When large businesses merge or acquire, they may create disruptions in the market. While such transactions may benefit from economies of scale and lead to efficiencies in the delivery of outputs, some mergers may result in anti-competitive harm to consumers by reducing and foreclosing competition. The merger review of such combinations ex ante ensures that such likely adverse effects on competition are remedied in a timely manner and that the markets remain competitive. The absence of such review may lead to concentrations in the market and entail huge costs in unscrambling them later. All mergers and acquisitions are not regulated under the Competition Act. Keeping in view ease of doing business, only those mergers and acquisitions that meet the asset or turnover thresholds prescribed, that is major ones, are subject to competition assessment. Further, certain categories of combinations such as amalgamation of regional rural banks, reconstitution, transfer and amalgamation of nationalized banks, combinations involving central public sector enterprises in the oil and gas sector are exempted by the central government from application of the Act, considering various factors which include the economic situation as well as the overall policy of the government. Conscious of the need and significance of inorganic growth for enterprises to attain size, scale, and efficiency as well as global footprints, we have focused on the quick approval of mergers and acquisitions that do not cause an appreciable adverse effect on competition in markets. Since it is an ex ante provision, we do crystal gazing in all combinations where their anti-competitive effects are not evident. The Commission would like to err on the side of approving so as to facilitate growth, as the provisions under Section 3 and 4 of the Act would still be applicable to the combined enterprise if it abuses its dominant position or becomes involved in collusive or cartelized activity in the future. Under the merger control regime, CCI has examined more than 900 mergers and acquisitions notices. In this, CCI has successfully balanced the requirements of a robust merger control regime with the need to facilitate ease of doing business. CCI introduced the green channel route for filing a combination notice, wherein a proposed combination is deemed approved subject to certain criteria. This mechanism is the first of its kind in any competition jurisdiction in the world. The green channel has gained traction and has been very well received by the industry. CCI has remained steadfast by focusing on procedural simplification, speedy disposal, and lessening compliance. For instance, most recently, the requirement of providing information on non-compete agreements in merger filings has been dispensed with, and revised guidance notes have been issued giving parties to the combination clarification on the information to be filed with CCI. Further, forms for filing notices have been simplified. The extent and intensity of competitive rivalry and dynamism in markets depend on several factors, including ease of entry and exit of firms. Easy entry and exit possibilities are also important from the standpoint of their implications for the ease of doing business. When the entry and exit processes are rapid and smooth, they create incentives for investment. In this way, competition law, along with IBC, has emerged as an integral part of corporate governance. While the Competition Act does so by promoting competition, IBC does it by reviving market players through its resolution mechanism, which includes mergers and amalgamation, among others. As part of our advocacy mandate, we reach out to our stakeholders in various ways. CCI has published several advocacy booklets, quick guides, and resources which are available on its website to keep stakeholders better understand competition rules and frame in-house compliance manuals. Besides, we organize lectures, workshops, and seminars and publish our bilingual quarterly newsletter, Fair Play, in order to take competition law deeper in the country and boost CCI's efforts in making markets across India competition compliant. CCI has the resource person scheme, which aims at sensitizing the state machinery on competition matters, especially public procurement. CCI's role as an expert body also extends to promoting a culture of competition in all economic spheres, including policy. To this end, CCI participates in policy deliberations and engagement with various arms of the government to encourage competition-driven efficiency. Thus, it is our constant endeavor to make rules and regulations competition compliant ab initio. We are also involved in the competition assessment of new legislations before they are enacted. The Commission has also been reaching out to stakeholders through market studies in order to understand markets as well as gather insights on competition issues and possible remedies. In recent times, CCI has released market studies in e-commerce, telecom, and pharma sector. A few other market studies are in pipeline, namely cab aggregator, film sector, etc. As a result of ever-growing technological developments and the emergence of related novel issues, the challenge for regulators is to keep abreast of the developments in these markets and continue to evolve and refine the tools. The government constituted Competition Law Review Committee in 2018 to review the robustness of the existing framework and make recommendations accordingly. The panel submitted its report in 2019, while broadly finding the existing architecture to be sufficient to deal with the issues arising from new age markets. The committee suggested certain changes in the substantive and procedural aspects of the law in order to provide clarity and further strengthen the regulatory framework. Based on the recommendations and with a view to provide regulatory certainty, promote trust-based business environment, and reduce litigation, it was considered important to amend the Act. Accordingly, I am happy to say that Competition Bill 2022 was introduced in Parliament yesterday to amend the Competition Act 2002. It provides that certain combinations, that is mergers and acquisitions, more so of digital markets, may not meet traditional notification thresholds, but may still require scrutiny from a competition law standpoint. Accordingly, it proposed that deal value threshold of rupees 2,000 crore as another criteria in addition to asset and turnover should be imposed. The committee also observed that certain jurisdictions like European Union accept remedies from parties to antitrust disputes. These remedies may be in the form of settlements and commitments. The bill empowers CCI to accept settlements and commitments for certain types of anti-competitive agreements and abuse of dominance. These changes will go a long way in equipping CCI in dealing with the challenges both in digital and traditional markets more effectively and efficiently. In the interconnected and globalized world, it is also imperative that we remain alive to the developments taking place in different jurisdictions at the global level, particularly in the context of new age markets. Over the past year, many jurisdictions such as European Union, United States, United Kingdom, Germany, Japan, and South Korea have been at various stages of putting in place some form of ex-ante regulations to supplement existing exposed competition law enforcement for regulating big tech giants. We are also studying and examining such ex-ante regulatory frameworks of mature jurisdictions and their relevance and appropriateness for us, keeping in view the domestic specificities and economic conditions. Realizing the challenges in regulating new age markets from a competition law perspective, we are planning to set up a digital markets and data unit in CCI, which will act as a specialized interdisciplinary center of expertise for digital markets. The DMDU will connect with experts, engage with industry, academia, other regulators, departments, and international agencies, provide inputs on policy issues, support data analytics management, and undertake any other task assigned to it in the context of digital markets. Before I conclude, I would like to highlight that CCI is increasingly reaching out to stakeholders to remove any disconnect between market realities and competition regulation. The objective of the Act and the Commission is not to create an additional hurdle for businesses, but to ensure a healthy competitive environment which will bring out the best in them. We are cognizant of the fact that the working of CCI has to be in harmony with the evolving business environment. During the pandemic, CCI in a number of cases either did not impose any penalty or imposed reduced penalties on MSMEs, considering their poor economic condition due to the impact of the pandemic. Based on the feedback of stakeholders and the experience gained, we regularly streamline processes and procedures in order to promote ease of doing business. Our goal is to build a regulatory regime based on trust and communication and encourage self-regulation. For instance, on the basis of the market study in e-commerce, which revealed information asymmetry and imbalance in bargaining power between platforms and businesses, CCI issued certain self-regulatory measures to platforms with regard to transparency in search ranking parameters, clear and transparent policy on the actual and potential use of data collected by platforms, adequate transparency over user review and rating mechanisms, notification to business users regarding proposed revision in contract terms, and clear and transparent policies on discounts, including discount rate and participation in discount schemes. Revised confidentiality regulations, which rely on self-certification by parties instead of adjudication on confidentiality claims, as was previously done, and green channel route under merger control are some of the steps taken by CCI towards strengthening trust-based regime. We look forward to reciprocation and cooperation from businesses in establishing the virtues of fair competition. Trust is necessarily mutual between the industry and regulator. In a recent matter involving an e-commerce platform, CCI kept its approval to combination in abeyance as it transpired that the entity had failed to make full disclosures and misled the Commission regarding its intent of combination. Clearly, to make a trust-based regime sustainable, it is imperative that businesses adopt proactive compliance as a guiding light of corporate governance strategy and make full and true disclosures to the regulator. As future professionals and entrepreneurs, you would be encountering regulatory issues and would be required to put in place compliance programs, including competition compliance manual for your organizations. I hope that today's seminar provided you with the right orientation in imbibing competition law principles and equipping you to make the policies of the firm more competition compliant. I once again thank IIM Bangalore for giving me this opportunity. My best wishes to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, without wasting any more time, let's begin with a few questions that we had during the registration. Over to Professor Jaco.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening. Okay, so one thing is we do need a robust competitive structure, as sir has pointed out. And for that, we need to make changes in the competition policy to address the challenges that are going to come up. So I was keenly listening to your speech, sir, and I just picked out a few points from that, and I would be happy, we would be happy, and glad to hear your thoughts on them.
Okay.
So let me start with a very fundamental question that
Mhm.
any competition regime faces. As you said in the speech, that market power in itself is not problem. It's the abuse
Yeah.
that is creating the problem. So my question is, what is CCI's approach and philosophy, and how does it balance, the market power that a firm has, and at the same time promoting competition in the market?
See, actually, we have moved away from MRTP regime now. It was an old act prior to 1991, where we were not even allowing any firm to attain dominance because we were frowning upon the size itself. Now, when the 1991 policy came, what we call liberalization, privatization, and globalization, we found that we have to now rely on market forces as an instrument of growth. In that situation, we need a lot of investment. And investment will come. Private sector will make investment, provided it is allowed to attain scale, to achieve efficiency. So we have moved away from there. We said, okay, you can achieve scale, you can achieve efficiency, you can become dominant also. Means dominant, when we say dominant, we use the word dominant in our Competition Act. You can become dominant because your dominance is based on the premise that you will achieve efficiency. But then you cannot abuse your dominance. This is very important. As long as you are not dominant, market forces will ensure that you are taken care of. But once you become dominant, then consumers have no alternative. They have to come to you. You become a public good. You become an essential entity. Then you have to believe in fair play. You have to discipline yourself. So you might be abusing a lot of things before you come to the dominant position. But once you attain that scale, then you have to discipline yourself. So that is the difference. So we are not concerned about dominance at all. But we also ensure that organically you can achieve dominance. There are so many sectors where entities are becoming dominant by virtue of being efficient. Inorganically, when you acquire something, when we say inorganically, it means you are acquiring some entity. Then if we find, and that's what we call the regime of merger and acquisition. If you inorganically want to achieve, if you want to merge and acquire, suppose number one, number two, they want to merge. We will see after merger whether the entity will become dominant. That we don't allow. So you see the difference. Organically you grow, become dominant. We will impose discipline on you. You should be fair in your terms and conditions. You should be fair in pricing. No issue at all. But inorganically, if you grow, you want to grow, then you have to come to us. And there we will see that market remain competitive. You are not foreclosing competition. There should be enough number of players who are there in the field. So ex ante, we examine it and we don't allow that. And there we do crystal gazing. Yes, okay. There is a lot of there are a lot of barriers to entry in the market. If you achieve dominance, then you will become unshakable, and hence we refuse, or we provide remedies. Yes, okay, you can take this, but because sometimes it's a multi-product company also. In this product, you are becoming dominant. There you divest. Other products we don't have issue, so merger can be partial also. So ex ante, we ensure that nobody achieves dominance. Coming to market power, you asked a question. Actually, we don't have the concept of collective dominance in our competition law. When we say dominant firm means there's only one firm in one sector. Suppose there are two. Collectively, they are dominant. But we don't have collective dominance as is there in some other jurisdictions. Then both enjoy market power. For example, I'll just name, say, Amazon, Flipkart. Now there are two platforms doing the same activity, but no one is dominant. None is dominant. But the issue sometimes happens that both indulge in same practices. The idea is that, consumers should be able to go, if they find that somebody is abusing, they should be able to go to some other platform. But if both adopt the same practice, then multi-homing is not possible. And there the market power issue comes. There we call it market power, not dominant. They have got market power. And then we go into the rule of reason, whether that market power is abusive or not, whether it is anti-competitive or not. So we have got cases also, we are examining whether we have got cases that market power is not being abused, and this market power is for the beneficial of the for the good of the consumers, and that we examine under rule of reason, and the entire assessment is done also from the from economic perspective and from the legal perspective.
Okay. So you're talking about Amazon, Flipkart, and of course, these firms have are the dominant player right now, along with other big tech firms. So my next question is linked to that. These firms have a very unique business model. The way they behave, as you also pointed out in your speech, that they are working on a platform business model. And in that, we have to consider different sides, let's say consumer side and also the business side. My question is, now how does CCI look into how to balance these different divergent interests of consumers and business at the same time?
First of all, digital market is a very different from traditional market. Here, what is preferred is growth over profit. Initially, you burn cash to achieve growth. So normally, if we see in the accounting principle parlance, we see the bottom line. Say bottom line is healthy, so industry is good. Here, they don't see the bottom line; they see the top line. So bottom line may be red, but top line should be healthy. So they achieve growth because they are buying data, they are buying consumers. And once they achieve the scale, then they start using that data for entering into adjacent markets also. So their model is actually based on the network effects. Their model is based on the value derived from the consumer data. So this is a different model altogether. So initially, obviously, that's why they make losses, because they give something free. And what we call free actually is not free, because we are giving our data, we are giving our attention, and that they monetize later on, once they achieve a critical mass. That is why, here you can't have so many players also, because the business model is like this. You can't have more than 2 or 3 players. Like if you take social media platform like WhatsApp, because you will be where your friends are. Automatically, it's a direct network effect. If your friend is there, group is there, you would like to associate yourself. You will not go to other platforms like Telegram or Signal, because there you will not find your friends. So once you attain a certain size, automatically you go to the platform. So it is self-perpetuating then. And there's a direct network effect. And once one side of the market, there's a direct network effect, more and more users come, then the data of that is utilized for targeted ad on the other side. So other side of the platform, we have got the advertisers. Once they see that platform has got sufficient users and all, then advertisers, they pay money. So users are getting the services free, but their data is getting monetized, and that data is being used to get more and more ads, more and more targeted ads. So this is a multi-sided platform, is a different ball game altogether, and they have to attain certain size. Like in the beginning, if you see Ola and Uber, they were making losses. Now they are making profit because they have got sufficient number of drivers on one side and riders on the other side. Earlier, they were giving a lot of discounts to the drivers. They were giving discounts to the riders. But gradually, they have phased out these discounts also once they achieve the number. I mean, as a rider, if I don't get my vehicle within 15, 20 minutes, obviously I'll not come. So they have to have the drivers on the platform to have sufficient numbers so that riders can make use of it. And riders also, they give discount. So the business model initially is always to get more number, not to make profit. And once they achieve the growth, then they start breaking even and then they start making profits. So it's a different ball game altogether. Digital market is broad, and moreover, the competition is for the market. Competition is not in the market. There cannot be 10 players, 12 players and all. They cannot be. So you have to understand that this model is different. You have to, like, it is winners take all model. That whosoever is in the market will take the entire market. So we have no issue with that also, because you achieve efficiency, you become one player, dominant player, no issue. Here also our principle is same. The moment you become dominant, the moment you become essential platform, public good, then you behave properly. Don't I'll say degrade the quality. Don't compromise on privacy. Don't misuse the data. Don't collect extra data of the consumers. Collect that much data which is good for efficiency. You can't collect data and start entering into adjacent markets. Like suppose you enter into advertising market, then a new player cannot enter into the advertising market because he doesn't have data. So data becomes so powerful that it creates entry barriers. So that is why data portability, consumers should have control over the data. He should be able to share with the other new startups or new players. That is an issue. If that doesn't come, then obviously these players cannot be shaken from their entrenched position.
Okay, so one takeaway is that it's not dominance as such for this platform, but the you look at the efficiencies from point of view when you're assessing the cases related to platform markets, because the nature is that it's the competition for the market, not competition in the market. I think that's a very good takeaway. So I'll hand over to Vista team for a formal wrap up. I'll stop here. Okay.
That was indeed an insightful and engaging session on one of the most important topics on competition policy. I would like to thank Mr. Ashok Kumar Gupta and Professor Jaco for the thoughtful and interactive session. As a token of gratitude, we would like to present memento to Mr. Gupta. Have a good day. Thank you.
You announced questions also. You can actually out of time, so but you can be. No, I'm saying these are what I'm saying is there can be more number of players and they are coming also because they are in the retail segment. What I'm saying is, say like you take WhatsApp. So many players cannot flourish because it's a social media platform. People would like to be on the one platform. So there are different models. Like in the Amazon, Flipkart, right now there are two major. They can be third also, fourth also, fifth also. There is no issue at all. But in certain cases, even if there are two, like suppose you take Ola, Uber, you say why third cannot come? Third can come, fourth can come. But if these two people, they compete properly, sometimes two are good enough. But provided they compete properly, like platform has to be neutral. What we say, Amazon, Flipkart, your platform should be neutral. You should not play on the platform. You have to, there can be sellers on the platform, but you just can't sell your own products. Then you are distorting the neutrality of the platform. So what will ensure that platform remains neutral? That is more important. Like Ola, Uber, their algorithm should be neutral and they should not collude. Otherwise, three people can also collude. So two are good enough provided they compete.
Hello guys, we will now be having a speaker session with R. Venkatesan in just a minute. Yeah.